Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's just talk about the cops. I suggest to have respect for the police. These guys are just trying to do their jobs. They have a hard job out there. There's a lot of potential threats. I don't know if I would want that job. It doesn't really pay enough. I think that they should get paid more. Because these guys have to run towards the gunshots when everybody's running away from it. If there's some kind of psychopath criminal that needs to be taken down, they have to go and take them down. There's nobody for them to call. They're the ones that you call. And they're doing this for not much money. I didn't always have respect for the cops. You know, growing up, I was a thug out in the streets, hanging with gangs and other, no good people. And, you just have this us against them mentality. As I've gotten older, I've had a chance to get to know a couple cops socially. And I really found out, getting to know some of these people, that they're just regular people. Some of these guys are real badasses. And they train martial arts, or they have trained boxing. They've been trained in the military with hand-to-hand combat. Some of these guys are real tough guys. And they have to be in order to do that kind of job. Not all cops are this way. You've seen fat loser cops, but some of these guys are in pretty amazing shape. And I have respect for somebody who follows that kind of warrior path, who is living a mind, body, and soul lifestyle, who's training and trying to make themselves stronger and tougher. And, a lot of these guys are doing that. I used to have this fantasy that if only these cops would just take off their badges for a second, take off that gun belt for a second, and we could duke it out, that maybe I'd be able to show them, show them what for. A lot of people out in the streets had that fantasy. That's not just me. I seen that play out once before. Now, maybe it was a special scenario. I'm not saying all cops are like this, but I'll tell you the story. I was living in Santa Barbara. I was at a party, a big house party. And the house was big, and the party was big. It may have been a few hundred people there, overflowing with people into the backyard, into the front yard. Inside the house was jam-packed. There was a band there playing loud as fuck. And as the party went into the late evening, I guess somebody called the police, and the cops showed up. There was a lot of my friends there. There was a lot of tough guys there, and testosterone was flowing at that party. This guy, Officer Sealander, shows up, who was a well-known cop in that town. He was known for being a real badass cop, for being a real tough guy, for being kind of a dick. A lot of people were terrified of Sealander, and a lot of people really hated him. I myself didn't like him. Out front of the house, there's a lot of commotion going on because the cops show up. They're not arresting anybody, but they're telling everybody you got to leave, shutting down the party. I was probably 19 or 20. This big giant steroid goon motherfucker, I forget his name, I think his name was Rex. That's some stupid name. And he was big. Rex was big. Big neck, big giant muscles, tall, 6'5", easily 270, 260, maybe pushing 300 pounds, all muscle head to toe. Couldn't get enough steroids in his veins. This guy was just vascular, just veins popping everywhere. And he says to see, and Rex was a tough guy. It was a thug, a bully, beating people up. He was up to no good all the time. He challenges Sealander to a fight. And he says something to the effect of, If you didn't have that badge and that gun on you, you'd know I'd kick your ass. And I guess Sealander was in for a good time. He was willing to take the bait. So Sealander's like, all right. And he walks slowly a couple steps off of the front lawn over to his car. And Rex is stomping around, getting the crowd riled up. And there's a big crowd gathering out front into this circle around Rex. And Rex is just flexing his muscles and he's just being Billy Badass. And Sealander is over by his car, standing next to his car, very slowly, just real slowly, unbuttoning his shirt, takes off his belt, folds up his shirt, and puts that into the car. He's wearing this white tank top, and he's kind of an older guy. He was in his 40s. He comes stomping over, and Sealander was a big guy. Ex-Marine, had military tattoos on him, but not really. He wasn't heavily tattooed up, but he had some military tattoos on him. And he comes walking over real slowly into the circle that we've all created. And Rex is taking his shirt off, and he's sitting there just posing away. And Sealander puts up his hands in this funny, he's like this, like an old-time boxer. He's not like, and Rex thinks he's Mr. MMA. He thinks he's Mr. UFC champion. This was before the UFC, but he's one of these types of guys. And he's getting into his pose, doing all this kind of fancy work with himself. Footwork, whatever, dancing around. And they both come up to each other. And Rex takes a swing, which looked like a good punch, but he overextended. And all Sealander had to do was just a little bit of a back move. If he would have connected, that probably would have been lights out for Sealander. But he moved his head back like 3 inches, and the punch goes flying by, and Sealander has his hands out like this, and he gives him just a little tap, just a little ding, right on the side of his face, and bam, Rex was out cold, snoring. He was on the ground, snoring. You could hear him snoring. I was right in the front row. He was just asleep, like Rip Van Winkle. He's out cold. We all looked at each other. This fucking silence hit. We were just like, oh my God. Sealander is a badass. Don't ever, mental note, don't ever challenge Sealander to a fucking fight. And that tickled me. And Rex lost his tough guy status that day. He was teased till the end of time. He's probably still teased to this day. I don't suggest picking a fight with these cops. I suggest being nice to them. My dad was a gangster, real gangster. Committed felonies every single day. Oddly enough, he was incredibly respectful to police. He wasn't going to say bad things to him. He wasn't going to curse at him. Wasn't going to argue with him. My dad wasn't going to run from the cops. He'd take an arrest. He didn't care. Put him in jail. He didn't give a fuck. You just get out. His crew, they had lawyers. When you're a big enough gangster, you get yourself a few lawyers. So they weren't worried about nothing. He had always told me, be respectful to cops, and I never really listened. I didn't really learn to be respectful towards police until later on when I got to know a few of them as an adult. And I realized that I had stuff in common with these people. That the guys that I knew a sheriff and I knew a regular police officer. They would both come into my store. I had a retail store that was in connection with my motorcycle shop, and they were just customers at my store. But we would chat it up a lot. They would come by the store, all the time, every week almost, and just became good customers and, not buddies because I wasn't going over their house to hang out, but they were definitely friends. If I were to see them now, we'd give each other hugs and handshakes, and it would be all smiles. Both of them had a similar story where they had joined the military because they wanted to serve the country, they wanted to protect this nation. When they were done with their service, one of them retired from the service and then became a cop after 20 years in the service. The other one just decided not to re-up, and instead of going back into doing another term in the military, he decided to become a cop in the town he grew up in. These guys became police officers, became law enforcement because they wanted to help their community. Very righteous thing, you know. They didn't do it because they wanted to kick ass, because they wanted to beat up minorities. That wasn't why they joined it. That's what maybe people think. That's what CNN might have you believe. These guys had very righteous motives. And after getting to know them and just to realize that, you know, these guys have a hard job. They're doing a job that none of us want to do. You know, if your neighbor is about to kill his wife, you're not going to run over there and save her. But that Officer Sealander would. Or any other cop. And they'll do it for not much money. So, my dad was right. You just have to look at these people as people doing the job. That's all they are. He would tell me that. They're just doing a job. And you can't hold that against them. It's not a bad job. We choose, he would tell me this, my dad would tell me this, that we, the criminal class, we choose to break the law. Nobody's forcing us to do this. And we know the game. Just as regular citizens. You know, I don't commit any crimes. I'm a business owner, and I don't have to look at the cops as an us against them mentality anymore. I did when I was younger, but I don't have to do that anymore. But I know a lot of people who are like me, who are just regular citizens. And they have this extreme kind of hatred, us against them attitude towards the police. And it's really sad because you're demonizing a segment of society that is really trying to do the right thing. And you never want to come down on somebody who's doing the right thing. Think of how you've felt in your life if you've done the right thing and had somebody make you out to be the villain. That's such a weird feeling because you're just like, what? I mean, I'm trying to fucking help. You think I'm the bad guy. We need to have more respect for the police. If you're thugging like I was, you need to change your attitude. My dad would slap you around, change your attitude real quick and tell you straight out. You don't mouth off to no cops. You just keep it all smiles, yes sir, no sir. That's how you deal with them, period. You try to fuck around, they're gonna fuck around back twice as hard. You resist arrest, they're gonna break your arm. You run away, they're gonna shoot you. So don't play any fucking games. And that's what he would say. Thanks for watching.